Hey everyone, it's your boy Captain Hunter coming at you again. If you have not heard, Kyle Rittenhouse, the young man who was arrested for murder, uh, the intentional murder and other charges that he was arrested for, the young man who went to Wisconsin in response to riots and protests over George Floyd, Black Lives, in response to George Floyd. Let me stop right there. In response to George Floyd, a number of people throughout in a number of cities throughout the nations, if we remember, blew up and riots and things along those lines. And so Kyle Rittenhouse, in an effort to try to stem the tide of, I don't even know what he's trying to do, stop the destruction of property, equipped himself with an assault rifle, then went into Wisconsin, Kenosha, Wisconsin, started shooting at people. And his claim of self-defense worked. His tears that he exhibited so masculinely worked. I think that it really says a lot about everything that we can say about this young man, that this has gone on. So listen, I can't say I'm not. I can't say I'm surprised. I mean, I didn't think that was going to go well. I didn't really pay as much attention to the trial as I would have in other cases, other instances, because I thought that he was going to be. I didn't think that they were going to convict him. Here's a young man who we see presents as himself as a white male, goes out into the town under the guise of being vigilantism, under the guise of I'm going to protect my community, and this is what, in their minds, in some people's minds, the Second Amendment is all about: your right to bear arms, right to protect yourself, right to protect property. And why should he not go into places where law and order is not being established in their minds, and help to establish law and order? That's what the Second Amendment was about. It's what America was built on: the posseing up of certain groups and peoples in order to protect places, property, etc., particularly when the police can't or don't. Now, the police were being overwhelmed. They expressed their appreciation to Rittenhouse at the time and other persons who had stepped in to help them. And I don't have a problem with that. Obviously, as a former law enforcement officer, I don't have a problem with people stepping in to help to bring about law and order, right? I don't have a problem with any of that. I do have a problem. I think that this was a serious test case for a number of reasons, as far as what we're going to allow, who can equip themselves, and what you can do during these riots and protests, right? Florida, they want to make it so. I believe actually the law is already passed that people can run people over if you're protesting. So this is what it's all about, right? It's the right to protest, and it's about what the protests are in particular. Let me be very clear about that. This is what I have. This is my whole spiel about this: is what rights are we protecting? Whose rights are being protected to protest? What are we protesting against? Who can do the equipping of themselves with firearms and assault rifles and go into other places and do whatever? African Americans, Black people, minority populations, Hispanic, Pacific Islanders, Native persons want the same rights to be able to protect themselves, their house, their property, their families as anyone else. That's all that we're asking for. And it does not seem, I'm not saying it's not, I'm just saying it does not seem as if this is always applicable. And so we have a very high profile case of a young man going into a situation that if he had not gone into that situation, people would still be alive, right? He equipped himself, armed himself, got the moxie up, got a ride there, and then proceeded to do something that he was not trained to do. And then they're going to say, well, at the time that he acted and the time he pulled the trigger, he had a right to do that because he was defending himself. This is the stand the ground laws I've talked about. This is the philosophy. I'm not saying that it was. I'm talking about the philosophy of at the time and place and point that you're at, do you have a right to be at that place, and do you have a reasonable, rational rationale that your life could be taken or life could be threatened? And that is something that I do know, or at least read about, where the judge was explicit in making sure that that charge of self-defense, and that defense to this affirmative defense to murder, being self-defense, was read again to the jury. Listen, I'm not a legal expert. I'm not going to try. I don't try to break down what's going on in the courtroom, whether the judge was overly deferent to Mr. Rittenhouse, and his fake tears and all that he was crying. So I leave it up to the lawyers to do that kind of thing. But as a citizen, as an African American, we want the same rights and protections that other people have. And if it's okay for one person to strap up and then go into another town and start handling business, because we are in a place that we should not have been, what kind of message is that sending? I'm very, very concerned about that. I didn't bother to pull up any statistics about any other court cases along similar manners and things along those lines. But I think that it's certainly worth looking at and to understand what this means from a historic perspective, what this means going forward, what this means for vigilantism, what this means for defending property rights, who has the right to defend it, can you go cross state lines to do that, who can posse up at any particular time and circumstances. This is all very troubling to me. I'm very troubled by this. I'm not surprised by it in the least, but I am troubled by it. So really, really, very, very disappointing. So let me know your thoughts, your opinions. Like I said, I did not pay particular attention to all of the going-ons of it. I did read an article here and there, but all that the judge was saying, all that the judge was doing, Rittenhouse was crying, the judge was going off on the prosecutor, the judge, I guess, allegedly calling the guy or looking at his future, young man with a bright future or something along those lines that was allegedly said. I did look for those quotes. I couldn't find them, but that's just what people are telling me. So I could be wrong about that. Like I said, I didn't really pay that close of attention to it because I thought that the was going to be a foregone conclusion. I thought the verdict was going to be a foregone conclusion, and here I am being proven right, and I'm disappointed that I'm proven right, but it is what it is. Yeah, so I think I'm going to leave it there. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions, what you think about this particular case. What does it mean going forward for cases? What does that mean for minority populations? What does it mean? Does it empower and embolden other persons to cross state lines and just take up their arms and just do whatever? What does all that mean? Really, really interesting. Really, really interesting. And I think it frustrates a lot of people. But let me just say this at the end of this. You can't be so frustrated that you choose not to enter into the process. That means you have to be registered to vote and actually vote. That means that you have to, sit, when you're called upon for jury duty, you have to actually sit on the juries. But we can't complain that there's not enough pools. And I do know that this was another matter of how many black people were allowed for jury duty, and the judge called them a black or something, which is crazy. But listen, we got to be in these places, in these spaces. In order for us to be at least there, 50% of it has to be us being there, right? If we can't be called to jury, we can't be called to sit on juries if we're not showing up for jury duty, we're not registered, and everything it takes to be selected for jury duty in your city, town, or in your state. So make sure that you're doing everything you can do for that, and then actually vote. Right? If you don't like the way things are going, you have to vote. Right? Your legislators, so the laws can change, and then we can really narrow down these types of incidents to prevent them from going forward. So there are solutions to them. If you don't like the way that things are going, you have to become part of the process. You have to become part of the process. So I'm going to leave it there. Let me know your thoughts and your opinions. But I do want to talk about just one more thing, and that is those white supremacists. Prison guard works with impunity in the state of Florida. There's a few articles that were written about this. This one happens to come from PBS. And so reading through this, I mean, there's a lot of allegations, right? The prisoners are writing letters and things along those lines. And prisoners are writing letters saying that there's racism going on, that the guards are openly white supremacists and all that kind of stuff. And as you read through this, there's been some former persons of color and current persons of color who were interviewed, and they all said, yes, this is true. Now, the problem that I'm bringing this up, and I'm bringing this up because There's always going to be allegations, and people are always going to have some things going on. But my perspective is that of a leadership, right? If you read this, it says that essentially there's been little to no investigations, right? Let me just read a little bit for you. Some Florida prison guards openly tout associations with white supremacist groups to intimidate inmates and black colleagues, a persistent practice that often goes unpunished, according to allegations in public documents and interviews with dozens of inmates and current and former employees in the nation's third largest prison system. Corrections officials regularly receive reports about guards' memberships in KKK and criminal gangs, according to former prison inspectors and current and former officers. A lot of people are saying this is true. Inmates, current and former officers are all saying that this is true. Still, few such cases are thoroughly investigated by state prison inspectors. Many are downplayed by officers charged with policing their own or discarded as too complicated to pursue. God, I hope that is not true. Listen, this is too complicated for us to really dig into. I mean, looking at people's Facebook, looking at people's tattoos, going through their emails, asking a question or two, that's too complicated. I've visited more than 50 prison facilities and have seen that this is a pervasive problem that is not going away, said Democratic Florida State Rep Diane Hart. It's partly due to our political climate, but those who work in our prisons don't seem to fear people knowing that they are white supremacists. The people AP, the Associated Press, talked to who live and work inside Florida's prison system describe it as a chronically understaffed and nearly out of control. The prison is chronically understaffed and nearly out of control. In 2017, 3 current and former prison guards who were Ku Klux Klan members were convicted by the FBI, convicted after the FBI caught them planning a black former inmate's murder. This summer, which will be 2021, one guard allowed 20 to 30 members of a white supremacist inmate group to meet inside a Florida prison. A black officer happened upon the meeting, they told the AP, and later confronted a colleague who allowed it. The officer said that their incident report about the meeting went nowhere, and the guard who allowed it was not punished. Listen, it's all about an investigation. At least you got to try to do the work. Now, I could say something about that particular meeting. I mean, was it really that? I don't know. I don't want to second guess people. I'm not there. But at least my point is you got to do the investigation. You can't say that it's too complicated to not even to investigate, and therefore we're not going to look at it. This has apparently been going all over and going on for some time. Current, former prisoners and inmate and officers have complained about this. You have a state representative who's talked about the pervasiveness of the problem and the lack of the political will in order to pursue these things down the pike. Listen, this is why people don't have confidence in these types of organizations. Now, the correction system is it is very, very problematic for a number of different reasons. The overtime that's done, the finances that are given to it. People don't have a care about what goes on behind prison walls because they feel as if the people are there because of their own doings, and so there's a lack of effort in order to correct some of these misgivings and misdeeds and things along those lines. So I get it, but I think that you at least got to try. So let me know your thoughts and opinions about the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, and should they do some type of investigation into whether Florida guards at least should be investigated, right? And not just say, hey, what are you going to do? It's too complicated for us to investigate. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, much love and peace, and we'll be keeping our eye out for the Ahmaud Arbery decision. I am expecting, I'm going to say it right now, I am expecting actually some convictions there. I think it's going to be tough, but I do think that I do think they're going to get convicted in that one. But who knows? Much love and peace. Police reform is more than just a trending topic. My name is Lawrence Hunter. I'm a retired police captain from the state of Connecticut, and I've written a new book called Police Reform. And I talk about the evolution of law enforcement here in America and what changes need to be made in order to improve the relationship between the police and the communities that they serve. Over the past few months, it has become increasingly more important and more evident that there's something amiss and awry between the police and the communities that they serve. So whether you're about defunding the police or defending the police, if you're about Blue Lives Matter or Black Lives Matter, no matter what side of the fence you happen to sit on, make sure that you pick up your copy of Police Reform today.